Good morning and happy Sunday. This is an Asian pear. It's tasty, as you can see. I've been eating it, but that's what it looks like when you don't eat it. Although you should. This is a pair of pants, which now has a terrible hole in it and are garbage. It's a good thing I bought a skirt in Japan. Yay! And we're off to church. Love that it takes me less than 3 minutes to walk to church. So I am stuffing hymnals into bulletins, or bulletins into hymnal. Pastor Zakayo is actually going to be preaching today. He's the guy from Tanzania, so it'll be exciting. I gotta work though. All the hymnals are done. I had a little helper. She was very sweet. And yeah, this church comes down in boxes because it's like a ministry of the Eknek Church, or Young Nok Church. So it's cool. That's my little helper and her dad. Okay, so church was good. I'll tell you about the sermon later. And we are off to Bible study, and I have no idea. We've got like Bible study and then another service and then something else and something about Africa and then dinner, and it'll be exciting. And I'll let you know in between things. Pastor Zakayo preached. He's awesome. He's from Tanzania, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, off to Bible study about Joseph. Again, why are all the same scriptures keep coming up like through everything? Anyhow, this will be cool. It's the next Bible study room.
Video?
Yeah.
I'm like moving out of the way so you can take a picture.
No, I'm not taking a picture, I'm taking a video. Okay. Yay.
And this is the next Bible study.
The point that I'm getting here is that as Christians, we need to learn to face the fact. True faith does not deny the fact. But true faith works contrary to the fact.
Amazing. He talked a lot about the problems in Africa right now. Last week he introduced Africa. This week he talked about the problems in Africa. Next week he'll talk about being a missionary in Africa, and then the one after that they'll just do praise and effort, like African praise type thing, which would be awesome. So his main point, sorry, I'm like in between things, there's so much going on today. His main points were that Islam was taking over, and that we needed to pray that Christianity got strong again. We needed to pray for education so that the leaders could be better. And the last point's on the slide. I took a picture of it, it'll be right after this. But just prayer for those things. I can't wait to get to Africa. I'm so excited about that. I mean, I'm really loving Asia, but I'm excited. This is a cool little room for the mothers. They pump the sound in through the thing and they can see out in there. It's cool. Okay, so we are having fun. We're having dinner with the young people here, and we're gonna watch a movie, and it's cool. Yay, dinner. So I just had like the funnest time ever. We all like hung out after church and watched Captain America and ate ice cream out of this like giant bucket. It was cool. It was really good ice cream too. So that was so much fun. And oh, the red crosses, like that one, are at the tops of like pretty much all the churches here, which is cool. Like when Pastor Bill and I were driving to and from the army thing, you could look out over the town and see like 20 to 30 little crosses. It was pretty cool. But yeah, back to the apartment and freshen up on what the sermon was, because it was so long ago. I've been at church for like 14 hours. It's been so much fun. And then I'll talk to you there. I should also tell you that we played rummy and ate spaghetti, and that randomly throughout, like, okay, so in Japan, I met this girl, the one that I went to karaoke with. She looked and sounded just like Anne Hathaway, and now tonight, one of the girls that we were hanging out with, looked like that girl from Star Wars. Not the old ones, but the new ones. Yeah, it's kind of random. I keep meeting people that look like movie stars, but they're not. Yep. Okay, so today we've had 2 sermons. Actually, it's the same sermon twice. So 1 sermon, 2 Bible studies, and a thing about Africa. Okay, so in one of the Bible studies we talked about the history of Abraham, which was actually really interesting. And we talked about mostly just history and geography and that kind of thing, which is stuff I didn't know all that much about. But he talked about, when we weren't talking about geography, that without God that we're just ordinary people, and so was Abraham. Like, if he didn't have God with him, or if he wasn't looking at God, he did ordinary people stuff, which included stupid stuff and wars. And in those things, God still used him and used those stupid things in his life to bring him closer to God, which is cool. And then we talked about Joseph, which is the same thing we were talking about in Japan. But it was an interesting thing. We have this little sheet of questions. And we talked about what Mr. and Mrs. Potiphar must have been thinking when Joseph got promoted, like, because they just had him thrown in prison for a really long time, and now he's sort of their boss. And how that can bring up fear and envy, and how we should respond with grace to those kinds of situations when they happen to us. Hold on. Okay, so we also talked about Isaac and how he didn't worship God for a while, like when he thought that his son had died, and he got really depressed about it, and he didn't worship God for a while. But then when he found out that his son was alive and he was convinced, he worshiped God again, and God was right there, and that God is waiting for us all the time, even when we feel like he's so far away. He's right there, and he's waiting just for us to turn around and come back to him. And then in the sermon, we were in 1 Corinthians and in Mark, and a couple other places. But we talked about all these people, Israel, Paul, Abraham, David, who in their trials would worship God, and how we're supposed to do that. You know, even when Paul was in prison, when he worshiped God, God came and set them all free. And this great amount of faith, and how we're supposed to bless God at all times, and how awesome that would be if we lived our lives that way. And, you know, that doesn't mean not to face the facts. He was very clear about that. You know, you had to face the facts. You know, Abraham didn't say, oh, I'm going to have all these kids and therefore being old doesn't matter. He said, you know, no, I'm old, but also I have faith. And that's, you can have both of those things at the same time. But I thought, how? I mean, like, really, having all that faith is, it's hard. And I wonder what part of God did those people see. And, you know, Pastor Zakayo brought it up a couple times, that God was able, that he had the power. And, you know, in the scripture, when, I think it's either in Mark or Corinthians, I can't remember which one, but he says, you know, that he was persuaded that God was powerful enough to do these things. And it's true. When you see that God is stronger and powerfuler and more powerful and bigger than your situation, like David with Goliath, God was bigger than that. And that's why David could go and say, hey, I've got God with me. You might have bigger muscles and more strength and more weapons and more training, but I have God, and he's more than all of that. And so that's why we have faith, because we can look at God and say, you're bigger, and you're stronger, and you're more powerful than whatever the situation is that I'm in. And we have to see the situation to know how powerful God is, because if we say that the situation is nothing, then God's also nothing. You know, like, it doesn't take much to be stronger than nothing. But if we look at our situation and we say, hey, look, this situation, this danger, this whatever that's coming at us is so big. But we don't stop there. We say, okay, it's so big, that's true, that's fact. but God's bigger. And that's awesome. And so today, God's bigger. Did I mention that I'm running the soundboard too? Well, helping, co-running the soundboard tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. I need to go to bed.